Hello everyone, sorry for the delay, but there's a few technical difficulties that are going on at the moment, so we'll be back in a bit. Alright, unfortunately, there's a little bit of a situation going on with the data, and we don't really understand why. But it is what it is, and we're just going to have to keep hoping that it eventually fixes itself. It is with the F1 feed the problem, as it was also on the main feed that we are having a few issues. Still seems to be a problem here, so we will do that and then try and fix things in the meantime if possible. But we're getting ready for FP2. 3. I said that yesterday. I said FP1 when it was FP2. Now it's FP3. The first session of Saturday. And looking forward to see the cars go even quicker as they did before. It was Oscar Piastri who went a second faster than Lando Norris's FP1 time. That was in FP2. So they're definitely making some big leaps in progress. Now, hopefully, we can get this all fixed and be good to go. Alright, well, this is very frustrating. We're going to wait for the green flag and hope that something updates, but Spanish Grand Prix Practice 3 seems to be a little bit broken at the moment, doesn't it? I checked the F1 feed and that was having a couple of issues itself. So that would explain why. We don't even get any radio transcriptions at this point in time. So that works all well. Which is strange, because we're still not getting various other things. So that's loaded, that's all good. But we still seem to have a few issues. If this doesn't work, we may have to restart the live stream. Hopefully that's not the case. But the session should have started by now. We're only going to miss the outlaps. To begin with. Alright, we still seem to have a problem. Which is annoying. It would fix itself eventually. But it seems to be that we have a load of data from a different series that we don't want, which is incredibly frustrating. So I'm not entirely sure and why this needs to happen right now when it was absolutely fine earlier on. Alright, we are still working on the fix, so I do apologise for the delay. Hopefully this shouldn't take too long. Hopefully we've managed to get everything fixed without needing to restart the live stream. We'll stay optimistic. It's looking good. Yeah, and then we'll see how it goes. But as we do wait for the stream to load, hopefully we can get started with some data. I did a little bit of research earlier on. Seems to be that the strategy is going to be the same. Kind of idea of it being a two-stop. And as you can see on the screen, we do seem to still have some issues. You can see all of that there. Quite frustrating. It is what it is. We seem to have all the radio now of all the drivers, and we also have the race control notifications. So we're just gonna give it time, allow every driver to go out and set a lap time, and then we'll get everybody on. It's quite frustrating that this is the case, but it is what it is. I guess it just creates a bit of a unique graphic. Welcome to practice 3. We're currently just under 7 minutes into the session. Well, it does seem to be that it's going to be a two-stop according to what the technical personnel are saying. So I assume they're going to have some accuracy in their statements if they're professionals. And yeah, I think it's going to be a two-stop. Would we see the softs be run? I don't know. Maybe from a few, but I think it's going to be... Would it be a double medium hard? I think it would be a... I want to say a double medium, but it might actually be a double hard. You're right. It might be. We'll have to see. We'll have to see on Sunday. It does seem to be a very, very tricky circuit with grip though, so I'm not entirely sure if the drivers would want to be on that hard tyre if it's already slippery enough. We saw quite a few drivers struggle at the hairpin turn 10 yesterday. That's where Gabriel Bortoletto, George Russell all had issues. Obviously a lot more as well. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think maybe the McLarens might go... Well, they'll probably start on the mediums, won't they? And then I think maybe like P20 might start on the hards. I mean, it is really up to the drivers, and it's up to the weather as well. If the weather cools down, are we going to get a medium hard medium? That could be the case. Obviously, with two cars in your team, you do have to make sure that you're aware of that as well. Alright. As yesterday, we were talking a little bit about the technical changes that we've seen so far this weekend, which is interesting to say the least. And I just want to clarify what the technical changes actually are. So first of all, what have the teams done? Some have changed the wings, the actual kind of layout of the wing, but some have just changed the structure of the wing, so the internal structure, not a visible difference. It'll be the stiffness, the flexibility of the carbon fibre, and also if there's a filament inside that carbon fibre to prevent that from flexing as well. But the changes to the regulations are in reference to mainly the static load tests that the FIA does. So they put a 75 kilogram weight on one side of the wing and a 100 kilogram weight on another test on one side of the wing. That's to test the deflection, and if it moves a certain amount, then it's either passed or it's failed. So it means the wings can still deflect at high speed, just not so much at lower speeds with less load. So it's about passing the static load tests. That's where the legality is at. It doesn't mean that the wings can't still deflect when the cars do gain speed. So if you're looking at the TV screens and you think, oh, actually, well, the wings are moving, so that car must be illegal. Actually, it's probably not illegal. It's probably passed all the required tests that it needs to pass. And other than that, it's just moving around as it's expected to. Esteban Ocon needs the pit lane now. And for their second session, as they had a junior driver take over, didn't they? Or I say that, an FP1 driver of Rio Hikawa take over their seat for a short period. Bortoletto into the pit lane. And now a few other cars come out, Gasly, Hulkenberg and Tsunoda. Alrighty, we're finally up and running. I don't know what was going on earlier on. But some frustrating difficulties, of course, with the software and the data on the screen. But it is what it is, and it's all fixed now. As you see the cars set laps, things will be a little bit more clear on the screen. But at the moment it seems to be we've got a mix of data on the screen, so we just have to kind of ignore it. I'm sorry for the difficulties that we had. Very frustrating. It means that we've had to start a lot later and lose out on a lot as well. So missing the opening stages of the session doesn't make it ideal for the live stream, but it is what it is, and we now have a couple cars coming out. Yesterday we had sometimes, or actually at the beginning of the session, basically I think it was either no cars came out or all the cars came out. I think it was like basically no cars came out and it was completely dead. But then all of a sudden everyone was out on track, then everybody went in and there was just a couple of cars out on track, and then everybody came back out again. So they're all following very similar run plans. I wonder if that's because it's Spain and it's a circuit that previously the teams have done testing at, so they have some good data, they know when they want to go out and what weather conditions they want to drive at, so they all follow each other. I don't know. But what it did mean is that we had quite a few cars blocking each other completely legally. There was one that was actually reported to race control with Colapinto and Hadjar, but that wasn't actually taken any further than just being kind of pinged in the end, or reported. Other than that, any blocking was completely legal, because if you're on a lap yourself, you don't need to allow a car behind to go, especially in practice. And even in qualifying, if you're on a qualifying lap and the car behind is sat behind you, and you're still setting a timed lap, you don't need to move out the way. You only need to move out the way if you're not on a timed lap. Just because you're faster doesn't mean that you have the right to go through. If that's the case, then maybe you needed to try and plan a little bit better for the traffic. Well, that is the case that the cars and the teams have to try and manage today in this FP3 session a little bit better. So far we've got Yuki Tsunoda topping the times, and it is Esteban Ocon in P2, Bortoletto in P3. For some reason we've still got a mix of data on the screen, so we're going to do that and we're going to reload it, and then hopefully things fix a little bit. It also seems to make the computer lag whenever I press that button as well, which is quite frustrating because it's not ever done that before. But it's the situation that we're in. And I'm very reluctant to restart the live stream. Oh, it is a joy. It is a joy. Why on earth do we not see this be updated? Right, we're going to do something in a minute and we'll be back in a second. Okay, well, there is nothing we can do. It is just completely at a standstill at this point. So we've got the track map at least. Never mind, we don't. It's frozen. Now it updates all of a sudden. Now it's frozen again. The clock is still going, it's just the transponders are not really working very well. Which is incredibly frustrating. So maybe Formula One is having a little bit of a tough day in the Spanish heat with the data that's coming to everyone's homes. Seems to be a frustrating time. Just quickly as we do this, I'm going to have a look at something, but no, everything is good on my end. It's just Formula One seems to be having an issue. I'm not entirely sure how to fix it at the moment. I'm going to have a look to see if we can come up with a fix, but I very much doubt that will be the case. Hopefully we can get the cars moving again on circuit if the transponder is now working. Yeah, the cars are... No, they're not moving. Thank you very much. Very frustrating with everything that's going on at the moment. Yeah, the timing is still going. There's just massive problems. Do we have a bit of a better data screen? Well, we have as good as it's going to get, but we've also lost every single viewer except the couple. Thank you very much to those that have stayed. Unfortunately, there is literally nothing we can do, just mercy, at the mercy of Formula One. Still having severe lag problems at the moment. Alright, well, as we accept our situation with the timings, we see Lando Norris go to the top. And Alonso up to P6 in the end. Still managing to be beaten by KLE, who has done it a 43.9. George Russell goes top of the times. Purple it is for the Brit. Oscar Piastri complaining about something that is wrong with their seat. Feeling a bit uncomfortable at the moment. Not ideal when you start to put the G-forces on and the load kind of multiplies. Especially through the high-speed corners. So mustn't be the most comfortable feeling of all time. Alrighty, as the session continues, we see a mix of medium and soft tyres being run so far. We've seen a couple of hards be used by Stroll and Alonso, but they haven't done much running on them at all. They've pretty much gone straight back in. There were some talks just then of the compounds that we have on track right now, the C1, C2 and C3 tyre, maybe be not that much different in pace. So we could end up seeing different cars have different pace, which would be very, very interesting, wouldn't it? Alright, sorry for the delay in the commentary, I'll be back in a second. Alright, sorry for the delay once again, but it just seems to be that there are some problems. Only problems, but hopefully there's no problems with any of the drivers out there on track. As we see a couple set some good lap times. It's now Antonelli up to P2. Still almost 4.5 tenths away from their teammate though. Positions aren't everything. Positions are great. Great for the team points system if it's in a race. But gaps are for drivers' careers. That's the difference. Or Lawson going into the gravel just for a moment. Turn 11, 12-ish. And just a couple of wheels into the gravel, just very, very lightly tapping. Could have ended it, but managed to keep it together. Alrighty, 26 minutes on the clock. Well over the halfway mark now of the session. And all the cars have set laps at this point. And although it's a little bit confusing for you on the screen right now and you can't see absolutely everyone, you can see a lot of drivers. But I will go throughout the order. It's George Russell currently with a 13.396 as their best lap time. It's Antonelli, Norris, Leclerc, Hamilton, Alonso, Verstappen, Sainz, Albon, Hadjar in P10 and Lance Stroll in P11, Piastri, Hulkenberg, Lawson, Tsunoda, Gasly, Ocon, Behrman, Bortoletto and Colapinto. Of course, we've seen a mix of tyres so far, but mostly the softs and the mediums seem to be the one that they run on. So they will continue to try and push testing these medium tyres, getting ready with the softs for qualifying. But as the conversation earlier was about at the start of the stream with myself and Zingy in the chat, we're expecting mediums and hards to be used in the race. It would be very strange to see any softs come about, but it's not impossible. They have, however, just said that they could possibly see the mediums, the softs and the hards all be used in qualifying, which would be very, very strange according to history that happened in 2018. Alright, well, we've got to get ready for the predictions a little bit later on, final 10 minutes of the session, and we'll find out what could be the case for qualifying, of course. I think yesterday it was for myself, Norris, Piastri, Russell, Verstappen, Leclerc, Hamilton situation. However, that's not the final prediction, of course. We predict it finally for FP3, as it is the best opportunity to see what's going on. Lots of running from a fair few drivers at this point. And I'm going to try and see if I can get a bit of an easier view of how many laps each driver has done. Well, total laps out on track right now. Russell's done 11, 12 for Hulkenberg in the pit lane at the moment, 16 for Colapinto. So most of the running has been done by Colapinto on one set of medium tyres, but they've gone in and out of the pit lane on multiple occasions now. But yeah, still not quite feeling at home with that Alpine, it seems, so far. The least laps done. Well, Antonelli currently still out on track, 4 laps to their name, but they will likely be removing themselves from that situation as they continue to put the laps in. Most cars, however, in the pit lane, in the garage, at the moment, only 4 cars out on track. That's, of course, Gasly, Lawson, Antonelli and Russell. Antonelli potentially looking to push on this lap here. We'll watch their first sector and see what they can do as they come through turns 3, 4 into 5. Slight downhill, very easy to lock up the front tyres. A 22.0, a lot quicker than George Russell. But not their PB. Up through turn 9. The fast right-hander should be flat. DRS open. And then into the hairpin of turn 10. Heavy braking and then low traction as you put the load on the right-hand side of the car. And then immediately switch it to the left as you go through the right-hander. Up on exit. Very close to the gravel. As close as you can. And then through the next fast right-handers. Slow it down a little bit in the final corner. And across the line with DRS as well. Antonelli goes across the line, and they do improve in the final sector, but they don't improve their overall lap. They still set a 13-second lap time though, or a lap within the 13-second margin. Now, yesterday we saw a 12.7 from Oscar Piastri, a 13.046 from George Russell, so a 13.396, not too bad. A 13.825, a little bit off, but still a 12.760 from Oscar Piastri. There's a lot to be gained here. 2024 FP3 we saw a 13.0, so we're close to beating that already for practice 3. You've still got 18 minutes on the clock. Qualifying was an 11.383 for pole position, and the Q1 time I just wanted to remind myself of is a 12.143, I believe, by Lewis Hamilton. So, still got a long way to go until we catch those kind of lap times. We have been showing better pace on the Friday sessions, of course, relative to last year's sessions, FP1 and FP2. The FP3 doesn't look quite so straightforward. Max Verstappen goes purple in the first sector, a 21.7, not too bad. Pretty quick through turn 9, and then over the sector line as they head down to turn 10. A 29.468. And there goes Max Verstappen across the line. What can they do? Purple in the first sector, green in the middle, and purple in the final. Going ahead by just a small margin. And that is another 13.3 a 7.5 this time. A little bit further into the 0.3 second margin. Or the 13.375 second margin. We see the two Aston Martins and Yuki Tsunoda out on track as well. Lando Norris looking to try and maybe do something in the McLaren as they go for a 0.6 in the first sector. Brilliant stuff there from the Papaya car. Will we see them match their time from yesterday of Oscar Piastri, who topped the times? FP1, well, that was topped by Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri ended up there P5, as it was P4 for Lando Norris. Lando Norris backs out of the lap there as they go completely off at turn 9, having to take a very, very strange detour, going to a very different configuration, and then proceeding to jump in the way of Max Verstappen, who wasn't on the lap, fortunately. Looking to go very quickly though for Lando Norris, and immediately has a big problem. Turn 9 it was, where they had their off moment. Snap of oversteer on the right, on the rear of the car. They had to just go straight to the runoff and basically drive the car as if it's just normal. Just using a slightly different part of the circuit, that's all. Still a very flat part of the circuit, so easy for the car to run over. Just not quite so rubbered in, I guess. Alrighty, into the final quarter of an hour of the session, and we've got a fair few cars out on track now. Starts to get a little bit busier. Good to see. So far, no traffic complaints. Nobody complaining about being blocked. It's all good. Which is nice indeed. 21.8 there for Bortoleto in the first sector. As Lando Norris goes for, I guess, another cooldown lap. Oscar Piastri currently down in P16. As they sit there and don't do much more. And now Lando Norris is pushing as they go through the final corner and start another lap. You could see the car just pick up speed on the map and head to turn 1. Heavy braking into the first corner. And then you try and keep the minimum speed up as you go through turn 2 and then into 3, using all of the track available. And then into 4, once again minimum speed, this time a bit of an earlier apex as you can really put the throttle on nice and early. And then through 5, being careful not to lock up the front tyres, as they'll then go into AS7 and 8, up the hill, a little bit of a chicane, very easy to get wrong over the sausage curb if you're not careful. Through 9, as they had that scare earlier on with the oversteer from the rear end, DRS available, into turn 10 the hairpin, heavy braking once again, keeping the load on the right hand side tyres and then switching it to the left as you go through the right hander. As we said before, be careful of the gravels. Liam Lawson took a dip there earlier on like it was a swimming pool through the fast right hander, flat completely, and then slow down for the final a little bit to just scrub that speed off. You can make it through safely, DRS, and it's Lando Norris on top of the times. It's Oscar Piastri who's taking away the purple sectors, however, with a 21.4 in the first sector, a 28.9 and a 21.9 in the final sector. Brilliant stuff there for Oscar Piastri. Very, very close in the final sector, but in the first sector and the second sector especially, huge differences. Huge differences. That's half a second between the two teammates here. As Oscar Piastri goes and sets a 12.3, beats their lap time from yesterday of a 12.760, and looking at FP3, a 13.0 destroys the FP3 time from last year as well. Well, so did Lando Norris, to be honest. Well, not destroyed it, but he did beat it at least. And then qualifying, a 12.3 was the Q1 time, and a 12.387 was the was the practice time there set by Oscar Piastri. A 12.386 was the Q1 time that Lando Norris set in Q1 for 2024, the Spanish Grand Prix qualifying, but it was Lewis Hamilton who set the fastest Q1 time, which was a 12.143. So we've still got a little bit more to go until we get to the fastest Q1 time. Q3, of course, and eventual pole position was 11.383 for Lando Norris in 2024. Still, a long way to go, about a second to gain here for pole position. If we can just get a couple more tenths, that would be pretty nice, wouldn't it? If we could match the Q1 times, that would be pretty cool. We're within the final 10 minutes of the session now, and I think it's prediction time. Well, the McLarens showed up as expected eventually and decided to go, hey, you know what? We're actually pretty quick. We are still pretty quick. I think it's going to be... I'm going to still keep the McLarens the same way as they are, even though it's a big risk now that Oscar's just gone and done what they've done. Lando Norris on pole, Oscar Piastri P2, and I think it's going to be Max Verstappen, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Kimi Antonelli. That's what I reckon. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, and Kimi Antonelli. Those are going to be my picks. Currently, Isaac Hadjar having a very good session again. Lawson isn't exactly far away on the positions, or necessarily the timings, a couple tenths away. So Racing Bull's really having another strong weekend, it seems, after Monaco. Scoring double points. They continue on the good form. Alonso as well continues with decent pace. Can they finally score their first points of the season? Can they get the job done at their home Grand Prix? Hamilton struggling relative to their teammate. It is only practice and quali is where it all matters, but we have seen the Ferraris be knocked out of qualifying a little bit early compared to what we expect a few times so far this season. I think Hamilton a couple times, I believe. And, of course, Leclerc in Imola along with Hamilton as well. Bortoletto and Hulkenberg 11th and 12th following each other. Tsunoda down in 13th, continuing to struggle. Their teammate 9 tenths away, almost a second away from the current pole time. So Tsunoda is about half a second away from Verstappen. And that's not ideal, but that's actually been probably some of the closest margins that we've seen with these two. Yuki Tsunoda really needs to try and get a move on here, if they do want to make it work. But it seems to be very, very difficult to get on with right now. And actually a mention here for the Williams drivers right now as we come to the closing stages of the session. They've had such good kind of performance and outlooks. Monaco kind of looked like a bit of a qualifying difficulty and they should have done a bit more. But so far here this weekend in practice, over Friday and now Saturday, the Williams are really not looking very strong at all. At a circuit that is considered to be one of the circuits where if you do well, you've got a good race car. It is one of the classic conventional circuits with a bit of everything. And the Williams isn't quite enjoying it. Albon down in P19. And only setting a couple of laps actually. So maybe there's a bit more they could have done. Carlos Sainz setting 13 laps in the session. Not the most, but not the least either. Carlos Sainz scoring points at every single Spanish Grand Prix in their career. Maybe this is the year that that doesn't happen. I hate to say it, but it could be the case, and it looks ever more likely to be the case. It's a struggle, but it's the cards they've been dealt, and they've got to get on with it. The cards being dealt to the McLarens are looking pretty good, though. That's for sure. We're getting to the final couple of minutes now, and we expect to see quite a few cars come out of the pit lane and get ready to set their final laps before they do their practice starts. So far, it seems to be that the front wing regulation changes haven't changed the order much at all. As we come to the closing stages of the final practice session before the big qualifying session later on today, which we will, of course, be doing the watch-along for. And then on Sunday, McLaren is still strong. And it seems to be that the front wing isn't where they're gaining their time. Believe it or not. Would you believe it? A Formula 1 car gains most of its downforce from the floor. Max Verstappen pushing with the car a little bit here, going pretty quickly. 4 tenths away from the pole time. and still yellow in the first sector. Currently P5 in the standings, or in the order, just behind George Russell. Well, I say just behind, about 2 tenths in the end. A 21.8 isn't exactly slow, however. And a 29.4, where we saw a 28 point something from Oscar Piastri earlier on, so still quite a lot slower in that middle sector. Still doesn't hurt to have a go at pushing the car to the limit and seeing what it can do. The final sector, Max Verstappen at 22.3. And P5 it is for the Dutchman, still setting a slightly slow lap time by about 3 tenths. And that'll be their session done as they wait for it to end and they get ready for their practice start. There's the checkered flag. There's Hadjar taking it first out of everyone. And there is everyone except from Albon out on track. Albon has had a torrid time here today, setting 5 laps in the entire session and spending the rest of it in the pit lane. The Williams are struggling here in Spain, in Barcelona. We wait for the cars to go across the line and then we will call out the order as the drivers get ready to go. So far, looks like we don't really have anybody going too fast in the first sector. Hamilton wasn't going slow. It goes slow in the middle sector. And that will be the session done. I thought maybe Oliver Behrman would have pushed in the final bit, but they didn't in the end. They've just left the pit lane to go and get ready for the practice starts. Is it the soft tyres for everyone right now? Practice starts on the soft tyres for every single car. Well, the line has been crossed, and it's Oscar Piastri who lights up the table with a 12.387. The only other car to set a 12-second lap time was his teammate Lando Norris, 5.5 tenths almost away, 12.913 for the Brit. And it's Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Verstappen, Hadjar, Antonelli, Alonso, Hamilton and Lawson in P10, then Bortoleto, Hulkenberg, Sainz, Tsunoda, Stroll, Gasly, Colapinto, Ocon, Albon and Oliver Behrman at the back of the pack, with Albon only setting 5 laps in this session. A few cars struggling, a few cars thriving. Of course, that is the Mercedes finding a little bit more performance. It's Hadjar who has done another brilliant job in P6, outperforming Liam Lawson. Lawson not too far away. And it's the Saubers who are kind of enjoying the circuit at the moment relative to the Williams and the Alpines as well. Well, thank you very much for watching. That's been that one. We'll see in a bit for qualifying, where we'll find out if my predictions are right. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton and Antonelli. I think that was my predictions. It'll be them for now. Thank you very much once again. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.